I was so afraid to make it because I wanted to make sure I did it justice. So let's try it out. Ooh. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making my favorite dish ever. Not even just favorite Chinese food, I think this is my favorite food. If I could only have one more meal in my life, I think this would be it. Today we're going to be making sort of a stir-fried crispy chicken and chilies. It comes from the Sichuan province of China and it's called La Siji. I apologize for butchering the names. I'm still learning, but it's delicious, it's crispy, it's fragrant, it's spicy and tingly. If you haven't had any Sichuan food before, you're gonna learn a little bit about what makes it tingle and the Sichuan peppercorns that go into it. So let's get started. I've got all of my ingredients laid out here. We'll do a quick walkthrough of everything that we need, and then we'll go step by step to make sure everything is planned out. Starting with our protein, we're using boneless and skinless chicken thighs. We want chicken thighs, not chicken breasts, because these ones are a lot juicier, so it's not gonna get dry even though we're gonna be frying it. For some of our spices, we need some ground red pepper. If you can't find ground Sichuan pepper, you can always go for cayenne pepper or chili pepper, but Sichuan pepper is preferred. Some Sichuan chili flakes, ginger, sesame seeds, some fresh garlic, lots of spring onions. Now for our marinade for the chicken, we're gonna use some light soy sauce and some Shaoxing cooking wine. Of course, when cooking any Sichuan dish, we absolutely need Sichuan peppercorns. If you haven't had a Sichuan peppercorn before, you are in for a treat. These peppercorns are not necessarily super spicy, but they do have a really interesting flavor. It's more of a tingly or numbing sensation. Definitely recommend. Of course, we need some dried chilies. You can use whole dried chilies. I actually went for the ones that are already cut in half because the seeds are exposed and I like that extra heat. If you don't want it to be too hot, I would recommend going with the whole chilies, maybe cutting a few in half to let the seeds out to get the heat, but I'm feeling brave today, so half chilies in here. A little bit of salt. I'm going to be using peanut oil to fry up the chicken today. If you happen to have a peanut allergy or just don't like peanut oil, you can use canola oil or another kind of oil, but peanut oil is my oil of choice. And lastly, some cornstarch to help coat the chicken, that way it comes out nice and crispy from the wok. When we're making this dish, the star is obviously the chicken. That's our protein in the meal. We do want to make sure that we've marinated the chicken to keep it nice and juicy. And then while it's marinating, prep everything. If you've heard of mise en place, getting everything in order, that means you want everything ready to go so the instant you start to cook, everything's already set up for you. So that's gonna be really important here because once I get my wok going and it's getting hot and everything is frying, I don't wanna have to stop my cooking at any moment, okay? So definitely starting with marinating our chicken, prepping the rest of the ingredients. That honestly takes the longest. Once all the prep is done and that grill's turned on, your meal is done in a flash, okay? So we're gonna get started getting ready with our chicken and our marinade, and then we'll come right back. All right, so the chicken is out and it's ready to start being chopped up to get ready to marinate. Now for this recipe, we're actually gonna be using some small pieces of chicken. So cutting these boneless, skinless chicken breasts into about 1/4 inch cubes. I'm just gonna get some of these ones out of the way and then get started. Now to be honest, anytime I'm making Chinese food, Sichuan food, honestly any kind of food at this point, I'm not necessarily standing there with my tablespoons and my cups and all of my measuring cups to make sure that everything is absolutely 100% exact. So as we're going through this recipe, we're doing it with feeling. That's the way that Ryan always explains it. We're doing Chinese cooking with feeling, using our intuition, figuring out how much of each ingredient we think we're going to need, and then going from there. Now, because that's not very precise, the teacher in me has included a recipe that I'm using as a guideline to follow along. I found this amazing blog called the Mala blog, I believe that's what it is. It's a mother-daughter duo, and they are focusing on looking at all these different Sichuan recipes and really creating an easy step-by-step kind of guide to follow. So I'll link that down below so you can see sort of the general gist of everything I'm reading, or sorry, everything I'm using. The one thing that I really loved about that blog is they actually have a storefront as well. So some of the ingredients can be difficult to find. Depending on where you live, it might be hard to find Sichuan peppercorns. Now, because I live in a big city, there happens to be lots of different types of stores and different foods all around. So it wasn't a big deal for me. But if you live somewhere where it's not attainable, they have a storefront, a marketplace where you can buy online and they'll ship to you. So I thought that was kind of neat. I'll put that down below. I'm curious to know if you've ever had any Sichuan food before, and if so, what kind of Sichuan dishes have you had? I had, I don't know, several in my day. My boyfriend and his family happen to be from China, and his dad is from the Sichuan province. So there's this one amazing restaurant that we go to every time they come to visit us. It's fantastic. We'll sit there and order like 20 dishes and just kind of stuff yourself with all this amazing spicy food. But if there's anything out there that you've tried either at a restaurant or you've made yourself, comment down below because I'd love to give some other recipes a try. Figure out how I can actually take some of those restaurant style dishes and do them at home for my family. For those of you who haven't had Sichuan food before, one of the things that we're really going to be focusing on is the Sichuan peppercorn. And that's sort of the seasoning and the fragrance that Sichuan is famous for. If you haven't had that, you might not know sort of what to expect, and I definitely didn't the first time I had it. I think we were eating, I think it was this dish, I think it was lasagna, we were eating that, or a spicy fish, one or the other. And the first time I had it years ago, I was just eating it, and I happen to be a spice lover. It wasn't an issue, but I was noticing that my mouth was feeling really bizarre, thinking like, oh my God, am I having an allergic reaction? What's going on here? But that's just the nature of the peppercorns. It's not a super hot pepper. It's not like a ghost pepper or anything like that. It's a pepper that has a numbing sensation or tingling. So when you eat it, you get this numbing feeling within your mouth. Some people try to avoid the peppercorns. Some people eat them whole the way they are. It's kind of up to you. One of the things that is popular is to grind up the peppercorns and use that as one of the seasonings. That way you're still getting that tingly sensation, but without having to bite into a whole peppercorn yourself. But it is a really different spice if you haven't had anything from that area before. It is really delicious, though. It's probably one of my favorites. Actually, the other day, I was just online watching a few cooking videos, as you do, and I believe it was Bon Appetit who put out a video of one of their chefs learning all about Sichuan cuisine. Without much experience from before, just going into it wanting to learn as much as he could. And they described the 3 pillars of Sichuan cuisine and the flavor really well. I'll link that video below as well, just so you can get a little bit of history and a bit of background of what the spices are, what some of the main ideas of the dishes are. Really, really cool stuff. But they didn't make lasagna in that video, so that's what I'm here for. So, time for the marinade. I've just got the chicken here. We're gonna take our light soy sauce, about a tablespoon, give or take, depending on how much chicken you have in there, and another tablespoon of the cooking wine. That sounds about good. Everything is in there. Now it's gonna be time to mix it up. I'll cover this, put it into the fridge, then we can get all of the rest of the ingredients chopped, ready to go, and prepped for the wok. Starting with the garlic. Now for the garlic, we only need, I think about 4, 5, 6 cloves, really however much garlic you want. We really like garlic in this house, so I'm gonna add a few extra. Plus, I actually did end up having a little bit more chicken than I thought I would, so I think 6 cloves is good. The garlic and the ginger are gonna be cut in a similar way. All we have to do is thinly slice these up. Quick thin slice. That way the prep is done, out of the way, so we can get to the good stuff. veggies are chopped. We have the green part of the green onions and the white part of the onions separated, and then as well as our thinly sliced garlic and ginger. I kept the green and white separate because the white is crunchier, can stir fry a bit longer. The green part goes in right towards the end, almost as a garnish. So now it's time to make the coating that's gonna go onto the chicken to give it that crispy texture. First thing we're gonna need is a big sort of reusable bag. You could do this in a bowl. I just find it's easier to do it this way. That way you can kind of shake it around and get all of the pieces coated. We're gonna start with our cornstarch. Now for cornstarch, we need about 4-ish tablespoons, give or take. Again, we're cooking with feeling in here. So I'm gonna pour this straight into the bag. That looks about 4-ish. We're gonna want about a tablespoon of the fresh Sichuan chili flakes and another tablespoon of our chili powder. So I'll put some of that in there. And our chili powder. And just a little bit of salt, a pinch or about a teaspoon of salt. And that's it. Did I mention that this is my favorite food? I can't wait. I'm so excited. Ooh, baby. Perfect fit. All right, chicken is in. So now it is time to seal the deal. Seal this one up, and let's get everything coated in our cornstarch and our seasonings. I can't be the only 90s kid who remembers shake and bake, right? That was like the epitome of me helping in the kitchen when I was about 5 years old. Mom would just throw something in the bag and say, okay, shake this. And I thought I was a master chef. Look where we are now. Wow, let's take a closer look. This is exactly what our chicken is looking like at the moment. You can tell it's got a nice even coating of the cornstarch, the chilies, the powder, the salt, but it's not totally coated to the point where you can't see the chicken underneath, right? So that's what we're looking for, just a light coating on the chicken. And now it's just about ready for our wok. Okay, it is finally time to get this chicken going. Now the first thing that I've done is I've turned my burner onto a high heat. I've got my wok back here, just starting to heat up. I need about 1.5 cups, maybe 2 cups of oil, just enough so that I can cook the chicken. I'm not putting all of this chicken in at once. That would overcrowd the pan. Then the temperature of the oil would go down and nothing would cook evenly. So we're doing this in small batches. Once the chicken is done and it's reached that crispy kind of golden, like golden brown on the outside, then I'm gonna take that out and put it just on a nice plate with a paper towel there to kind of soak up any of the extra oil. We're looking for a crispy dish. We're not looking for an oily dish. This is where we're at. Our chicken is done, it's cooked through, it's nice and crispy, but we're not just leaving it at that. It's time to actually add in all the other ingredients, add in some freshness and other flavors. That's really gonna give it that Sichuan kick. So I'm gonna turn this on to about a medium heat. I've cleaned out the wok. The residual oil's over to the side, and I am gonna use a little bit of that to actually fry up my fresh garlic and ginger. I'm gonna continuously stir everything in that wok for the rest of the recipe. Garlic and ginger go in first, nice and cooked all the way through. Then I'm gonna add in the sesame seeds next. I wanna add these in as early as possible so I can toast those to get a nice toasty, rich, deep flavor in there. Once all of that is cooked through, then I add the rest of the ingredients. That's when the peppercorns go in, the chili flakes, and the chilies. While that's sauteing as well, I'm gonna throw in the whites of the onion. The last thing you're gonna do is pop in the chicken to give it one last toss, one last fry to crisp everything up. Make sure all those flavors melt together, and then add in the spring onions as well, the greens this time. So we're gonna put that and the chicken in to finish it off. Saute everything up for about a minute or two, and then it's time to plate. All right, we made it. So here we are. We have our crispy chicken and chilies, also known as lasagna. It is amazing. I cannot wait to dig in. I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, but this is actually my first time recreating this dish. I know I blabbed about how it's my favorite, but I was so afraid to make it because I wanted to make sure I did it justice. So let's try it out. Ooh. So good, so crispy. I love that it's coated in the sesame seeds. It's also got lots of amazing chili flakes on there. I actually made way too much. So I have all of this, and this is only about half. So if you're hungry, come on over, because I've got plenty of this to go around. So good. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any other recipes that you want to try, perhaps you haven't tried yet, or anything that you'd like me to try to recreate, leave it in the comment section below. I'm more than happy to learn. It doesn't have to be Chinese food, it doesn't have to be any specific cuisine. I'm just really curious to learn about all types of cultures, all types of cuisine. And there's no better place to do it than in my kitchen. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.